with the Zoom restream, so it'll back up record. So here we go. We're going
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streamed on Expert CRE Secrets Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying how to grow and preserve their wealth, whether through exiting real estate and or building businesses, also exiting highly appreciated assets and deferring capital gains tax. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial wealth, cryptocurrency, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm also joined at times from some amazing leaders and or those that kind of cross over to multiple things. And our guest is here to add some value and help us to level up our leadership. She's out of Melbourne, Australia, and she has a system or method for leadership that's defined as BRAF. And it's a method that is in that safety system. It's surrounded by clear, defined boundaries, underpinned by relationships, accountability, feedback, and trust. And she is a female entrepreneur, and she loves helping female business owners and entrepreneurs build their business and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Alicia Jarrett. Alicia, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Brett. Thank you so much for having me on today. And yes, I am calling you from Australia. So it's winter over here. I wish I was where you were. So
Yeah, absolutely. And for those getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
yeah, I'd love to. And thank you for that introduction as well. So I guess a couple of things just for people listening. My background was actually in a lot of leadership consulting and people development for more than 15 to 20 years. But for the last 5 years or so, my partner Matt and I have been actively investing in real estate in the US. So we now have 4 companies in the US with a combined team of over 19 across those companies. Anything from we're doing real estate investing, real estate marketing for other real estate investors. We've got a data business that we're doing, and we're also building some apps to help with real estate investing too. So when I was listening to your introduction, Brett, I guess we're more on the real estate strategy side, but also the business world side, entrepreneur side, but equally leadership, which is something I'm very passionate about. So yeah, I guess for me as well, leading my own teams throughout my career, then going into having my own consulting practice for more than a decade, where I was teaching other organizations and leaders about leadership. Because let's face it, a lot of people love what they do for a living, but leading a whole group of people in that space is a totally different skill set. All the way through now to having our global team, I really find that there's a passion in what makes good leaders, and what creates a really good leadership environment for people to just be their best. And hence why I've got my own little methodology that I've really tried to put into practice over the years and use to teach other leaders as well, Brett.
Amazing. And we're going to dive into all of that and leveling up your leadership with Alicia Jarrett. If you want to connect with her right now, you can actually go to superchargedoffers.com. That's superchargedoffers.com. But before we go there, Alicia, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I want you to go back to your earlier days, your younger days, and
Yep.
think about maybe a gift or two or strength that you believe you were given. And what are those, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. So one of them, which might not have felt like a gift at the time, but one of the things that got me really passionate about leadership is very early on in my career, I was led by somebody who was probably the worst leader I've ever experienced. Very much command and control, not letting people be their best and clipping people's wings, and very much leading from a place of fear. Now, at the time, I thought that was the worst experience ever. But what it forced me to do is to really look at, well, how can I be better when it comes to me and how I lead people? So I look at that as an awesome gift, because sometimes the gifts that we receive in life, they're not always positive. Often they're due to learning experiences and how we grow through those learning experiences as well. The other gift I would say is that one conversation I had way back when I was doing some business coaching, and there was a person I met with, a wonderful Paralympian called John McLean. He's based here in Australia. He's done the Hawaiian Ironman a few times without the use of legs, so he's pretty incredible. But we were having a conversation one day, and we were just talking in general about him doing some coaching for some leaders in my organization, and conversation just got, when you just have those conversations, Brett, where you leave the conversation going, wow, that was such a good chat. And we left the conversation and he said to me, just before you leave, AJ, a lot of people call me AJ, by the way. Have you ever thought of going a different direction and maybe starting your own business coaching and really looking at how you coach leaders? Because you're actually pretty good at this stuff. Now, at the time, I was a human resources director and in organizational development. And just that one sentence that he said the very next day, this is going back 15, 16 years ago now, the very next day I put a plan in place to go and get a qualification, do some study, leave my job and start my own practice. So again, sometimes these gifts that we get, Brett, come in different shapes and forms. And often it's not where we expect it.
Amazing. Absolutely love that. So you learn from what not to do from poor leaders, and then you had someone speak into your life about being a leader and coaching leaders and taking all of that knowledge and wisdom and your success in your previous careers to help other people. Is that a fair summary so far?
Yep. That's a pretty good summary so far.
Fantastic. So let's dive right into leveling up your leadership. So what's the number one secret using the BRAF method? Maybe I guess obviously define what that is again.
Yeah.
I know I kind of rushed through it in the intro. And then the number one secret to leveling up your leadership using it.
Great. Before I go through the methodology, there's a couple of things I want to state up front. Now, a lot of you listening here are probably thinking about leveling up your businesses, how to create more business growth, how to scale. They're common phrases that we often hear these days, Brett, when people are entrepreneurs and they have their own businesses. But a lot of people, when I hear that and I ask them, so how do you do that? A lot of the first responses that we get from people is, I'm going to hire some VAs. I'm going to hire some virtual assistants. I'm going to hire some people. Adding people to your business is not necessarily scaling or leveling up. It's just adding cost. So there's a couple of rules of thumb, I guess, that we've really looked at in our own business around that. The first thing is, before you look to scale up using people, what are some of the systems or resources or processes that you can put in place that enable you to work smarter, not necessarily harder? Now, for our own real estate business, we do a lot of land investing. We've got now, we do multiple deals per month, and we've got a system in place. We've got 3 full-time customer service people that do everything in my business when it comes to our land business when we're investing in land. And we've taught them how to do everything, but again, using this methodology I'm about to go through. But that sort of leads me to my second rule, and that is, as business owners, you shouldn't, and I say this with the utmost of love for people thinking about this, you shouldn't be too quick to outsource to somebody else unless you've done the task yourself. Because as leaders, we need to know what good looks like. We need to know how to measure success. We need to know, how do we want our own businesses to run so that when I'm putting somebody else in to do that, I can really set up a service level agreement, a way of working, a system or a process that's going to get me the outcome that I'm looking for. Way too fast and way too often, Brett, I see a lot of people that want to scale or level up, just put what I would call bums on seats. That's what we'd say here in Australia. Put bums on seats and get people in place, and then they've just created another job for themselves managing people. So let's just start there. But let's just say that, coming back to your original question, that we've done the work ourselves. We've really defined our systems, processes, ways of working. We've looked at what good looks like for our own businesses. And now it is time to get some people in place. Well, how you lead those people and how you set them up for success will then dictate your own successes in your business. And too often, I see people cycle through virtual assistants very quickly, waste of time and money and resources. I see people ending up spending their time fixing problems that their team might have, done inadvertently. And you see all these common issues that come out when people try to grow. But for me, it's about establishing the right, culture in your team. So is it okay, Brett, if I go into the methodology now and kind of break down what I mean by culture?
Of course, yeah, but make sure I captured it so far, right? So the first thing is you don't want to add too much to people. Adding people is not necessarily leveling up. So understanding that you might need some systems and processes in place to help you with what you already have going, number one. Number two, don't be quick to outsource to others until you've done it so you can define it yourself. The first time I did a renovation, grew up in the by my mom and dad doing construction and a ground up development in the Bay Area. But then I bought my own house and I had contractor friends and my dad, but I said, hey, let's do it ourselves. A, to save a little bit of money, but B, also exactly what you said. Like I wanted to be able to go through it in detail myself on my own property so that in the future, I could know, what it is it's going to cost, why it's going to cost that, what are the steps, how to negotiate, how to get
100%.
through it, right? So there's a method to that. So is that what you're saying? Is that a fair summary?
100%. Yeah. And we did that where, like, before we got into doing vacant land, we did houses and fix and flips in the US. One of our first properties, we went over and did demo day. We went over and went to, all the different, I'm trying to think of the huge hardware chain over there.
Home Depot.
Over here it's called Home Depot. Thank you. Over here it's called Bunnings. But we went to Home Depot and scoped everything out and did all of that and put pricing sheets in place. So you've got to kind of get your hands dirty as an entrepreneur. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. So let's dive right into the to the method and how it works and give us some wisdom there.
Sounds great. So in putting people in place, I really think it's important as a leader to establish the ways of working, but create an environment that gets the best out of your people. Because a lot of the times you're going and hiring somebody for a particular task or outcome, but they're trainable. When you get the right people in your team, people are trainable to do so much more than often what you're just tasking them to do. And I think our role as leaders in business is to unleash that potential in people and really try and extract as much value as we can. So where does that start? First of all, it starts with, I call it the B raft or raft B method. The B is about the boundaries. And I think determining boundaries, my experience is that a lot of leaders will bring people into their business and they'll say, this is your job. This is it. You can only operate between here and here. But often the boundaries need to be here and here. So in our business, even for our land business, for example, in our systems and processes, being our CRM, the way that we calculate our offers, everything like that, we actually have set that up for our team to be able to negotiate with sellers, negotiate with buyers, do deals without me, because I've given them the right framework and boundaries to know where they can work within and at what point they need to come to me for either escalation or confirmation. So my team does deals without me even knowing. And all of a sudden I'll get on a call with my team, which I do daily. They're like, AJ, we got 3 more properties under contract today and here's what they are. And I'm like, awesome, guys, So it's really about letting go of control and setting the boundaries for your team for them to do their best job within. And what's interesting, Brett, in that is when we give people more breadth to be able to do more, experience more, and take more responsibility, if you like, you end up getting more out of them. They end up being their better selves because they don't feel restricted with things. So setting those boundaries as to how you want people to work is the main thing. Then it's about the raft. And the raft to me is the mechanism called almost like the safety raft, right? We're on a boat, something's happened and we're putting out the safety raft. So how do we ensure that we've got a safety raft all the time for our team? Where we start with that, with the R, is relationships. Now, as business owners, when you're putting virtual assistants or, virtual customer service people in place or any team members, our team, Brett, goes over 6 different countries. But when you're putting those relationships in place, introduce your team to the people that you know to widen their network. So my team, if I think about my land business, my team now knows our realtor, our title agent, our probate attorney. I've introduced them to all of the people that I have relationships with so that they can strike up conversations and take initiative where they can. So when we help other people broaden their networks and relationships, we get an environment where they feel supported and included, and they can also work for the greater good. So not everything has to come to me. They can utilize those relationships where they can. The A.
Hold on, pause. There's so much value here. You just got to pause here. Okay? This is incredible. Okay. All right. So you mentioned creating an environment to unleash the potential in people, right? And with that, setting some boundaries, but really don't limit your mind on what your team can do. Release some of that control, actually expand the boundaries and give them an opportunity to perform at their highest level. Hey, by the way, there's something that, in maybe what you tell me what you think, it's a book called Run Like Clockwork, and they talk about the 4 Ds. There's design, there's delegate, there's decide, and there's do. And to the extent that the founder or the visionary or the leader of the company is in the do and decide mode, like doing the work and deciding the work, all that stuff, is to the extent that they slow the business down. To the extent that they're in the design and the delegate is to expand the business. Any thoughts on that, Alicia?
Could not agree more. And it really comes back to that, the old saying, you're working on your business or in your business. And if you are spending all your time in your business, in the minutia, trying to manage and control people on a daily basis, you're not letting your business grow, because part of letting your business grow is letting your people grow with it. And really, those 4Ds resonate with me 100%, Brett.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay, cool. So good. And then you said, I like the way you said this too, introduce people to all of your network. And that's a good point, because at the end of the day, it is the relationships in which we have. And it's, it's that old saying, or not that old saying, it's just the habit that Henry Ford practiced when he built Ford Motors. And he said he had this Rolodex, right? And something would come up and he always knew who to call, right? And so what you're saying is make sure that your team knows who to call and has that introduction and has that relationship you've introduced them to, so that A, they can call that person and solve that problem, and or B, that person can call them. They don't always have to call you. Is that what you're saying there?
Correct. Yeah, and they feel when they've got access to my relationships that I've worked hard to put in place, they feel more connected to the business. It's like, oh, AJ's given me access to be able to just speak to our realtor direct. Or if I think about our marketing business, our content team knows our design team now, and our development team. They're all separate, but they all now know each other, and they have now collaborated together on things and come back to me before there's even a problem that's been brought to me. They've sorted out the problem together. They've worked together on stuff, and really creating that space where it's like no one role is any more or less important than the other. We're all in this together.
I love it. I think it makes sense, but it's not necessarily intuitive, right? Like,
it's not.
Think about it.
A lot of people are like, I want to protect my relationships, or only I get to talk to that person, and it is counterintuitive. I agree.
Yeah. So excellent. So that's the relationship part. I think that's what you said, right? Or keep going. What's the A?
The A is for accountability, and this is really about creating an environment where trust, which I'll get to in a moment, but creating an environment where promises are kept, where people can be leaned upon and counted on to do what they say they will do every time. And here's again what we often notice with virtual resources as well, is you'll get a lot of people going, yes, I can do that. Yes, that's all good. And then you ask for it and it hasn't been delivered. And I want to create an environment that's the opposite of that. So accountability, and again, we've systematized this from our CRM through to our workflows in our CRMs. Whenever there's different tasks or things that need to be done, there's time frames on those, and the system will automatically notify both the team member and me when things aren't under control. But equally, we report every day on things that are under control. And driving accountability for me is hugely important, because if someone feels empowered to do their job, there needs to be consequences if what they say they're going to do is not met. And the thing is, when you're working with different team members, if someone's always keeping their promises on what they're doing, but other team members aren't, you end up with a disconnect between people, because someone's sitting there going, well, I'm doing twice as much work as that person. Why aren't they pulling their weight? So very much creating an environment of accountability. Do what you say you will do. And if you're not doing what you say you will do, then I need to know before that time's up. And really creating an environment that it's okay to come to me. If you're meant to be, running point on a task, and that task is about to not be delivered and we're going to be behind schedule, you're okay to tell me that at any point in time, just not after the fact. So again, accountability is something we really drive home in our team.
Good. And now on a CRM, like, what do you mean? Like, is it a special CRM, or just using the existing CRMs and make sure you're using?
Yeah. So we use Fresh Sales under the Freshworks suite of CRMs. Fresh Sales actually won CRM of the year quite a few years in a row, but it's not one that a lot of people have heard of. The reason why we went with it is its capability to be able to automate task flows, the amount of data that you can also keep in it. It integrates everything from the phone system, email system, contact system, the records of properties, owners, everything, the team. Everybody can collaborate on everything together. So that also allows us to create that culture of accountability, because everybody can see what everyone else is working on. There's total transparency across the business.
Beautiful. I love that. Fresh Sales, everybody. Fresh Sales. Did you want to add something to that? Are you ready for the F?
Nope, let's go to the F. F
Okay,
is
go.
for feedback.
All right.
So feedback for me, again, particularly when they're not your own employees and you've got virtual resources, a lot of people feel like feedback is I just need to tell you when stuff's going wrong. But for me, I think if we create a mindset in our team around continuous improvement, so feedback is something that we do on a daily basis. It's not for just when something goes wrong or when something goes right. On a daily basis in our team meetings, we're looking for opportunities to recognize growth, to recognize and acknowledge when people have achieved outcomes or they've solved problems, and creating an environment of feedback. But that feedback, Brett, has got to be two-way. So yes, we're acknowledging what the team is doing, but regularly and pretty much on every call, the question that I always ask is, guys, what more do you need from me? Because I can give you all the direction in the world, but you need to feel like it's safe to give me feedback on, okay, AJ, I need more time with you on this. We need more training on this. We need to know a little bit more about that property because we're stuck here. Feedback has to be a two-way street. And don't save feedback just for when things go wrong. Make feedback part of the everyday conversation. That creates a culture of acknowledgement, but it also creates a culture of empowerment. And then people don't get scared when you go, hey, can I have a minute to talk to you about something? Most of the times when an employee hears that or an assistant hears that, they freak out. It's like, oh, what have I done? We don't want to have that fear in people. It's a freedom that we want instead of fear.
Excellent feedback. That's very good. Continuous feedback. Make sure you're doing it. What more do you need from me? And then you want to encourage and reward and acknowledge growth and people that are solving problems. Love that. What does the T stand for?
The T is for trust, the biggest one in my mind, which is really about how do you bring your whole self to work without judgment and be able to be vulnerable? There's a lot of work that Brene Brown has done over the years on this one as well, but bring your whole self and be vulnerable and create a space where you feel like you're part of a tribe and that you know that your tribe's got your back. So, a sense of belonging is really what I'm getting to here. When you've got disparate teams, so as I said, we've got our team of 19 is across 6 different countries. They've never met face to face, but they feel like a family. And it's because we've created that environment of trust that we're very transparent with everything that's going on. We recognize that people can bring their whole selves to work. So, if you've got something going on in your life, let us all know about it, good, bad, or otherwise. If you know that you feel like you're part of something bigger than just yourself and your job, and that you've got a team there to back you. Now, again, you can systematize part of this. So from a CRM perspective, we can see on a daily basis when one team member is overloaded with work to do and some aren't. And so we've created a report and an environment that says, I'm not going to ask you guys to look at that, but every morning at 9 a.m. when you start, a report gets emailed through. And if you can see that this team member's got this much on their plate and you've got this, the expectation is that you jump in and say, hey, how can I help? Give me half of that and I'll help you out. And creating that environment where they really trust each other to back up each other on their work. And that has gone leaps and bounds in terms of, the outcomes that our team actually gets.
Amazing. We're running out of time. You ready for the lightning round?
Go for it.
All right, know what you know now. AJ, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Jump then and don't wait for another 10 years' time. Just jump and know that the universe, if you've got your goals in place and you know what you're striving for, the universe will conspire to get that success happening.
Love that. Yeah, it's like a Jim Rohn quote, right? Those that are,
yeah.
I don't know all the details, but thoroughly, have a resolve, the universe will get out of the way. So, excellent. What's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Yeah, number one book I've recommended is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, which is the entrepreneurial myth. And I think this comes back to some of the stuff in that B raft I just spoke about, right? And the 4 Ds that you just spoke about. So many people are good at what they do. They're not necessarily good at running a business or multiple businesses in that as well. It's a totally different skill set. So the E-Myth, being the entrepreneurial myth, really unpacks that you might be an amazing hairdresser. It doesn't mean you're going to be great opening 4 salons. And I think we all need to think about that in our businesses. We might be great at doing real estate deals, but can we manage a team of 10? Can we multiply a business by 5? So the E-Myth by Michael Gerber is what I'd recommend there.
Phenomenal. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
It's going to be more of a selfish one. I'm curious about getting back out and traveling the world. We recently had a little vacation over to Bali, Indonesia, and my partner Matt and I are world travelers. So I'm curious to get back out to some of our favorite spots in the world and start to explore, because our business, our main goal is that we can work from anywhere in the world. As long as we have a laptop and a phone and good Wi-Fi, we can work from anywhere. So we want to get back out and test that.
Phenomenal. Love it. Last question. Well, actually, second to last question. What's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Oh, for me, it's actually an acronym that I came up with many years ago, and it's in one of the things I spoke about before, and it's DWSIWID. Do what you say you will do. When you're a leader, when you make promises to people, or even when you are a business owner and you make promises to your customers and you say you're going to deliver something, you better damn well deliver it. So do what you say you will do. Because the minute we say that we'll do stuff and we don't, the other person feels let down, and all of a sudden we see a decline in relationship and a decline in business. So that's my biggest one.
Amazing. Last question, AJ. After all your success helping all the people you've helped, inspiring all the people you've inspired, building all the businesses you've built, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
Yep. How I stay centered in it is my partner Matt and I have a regular conversation every week about, are we on track with our goals? Do we still feel like there's alignment there? Are we still looking out for each other and our own health and things as well? So we have a deliberate, regular check-in on all of that stuff. And what was the second part of the question, Brett?
How do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights or new goals? Like, you keep accomplishing a lot, and like, what gets you just, going and passionate and on fire again for the next thing?
Big goals. It's a consistent strive for growth. I guess that really comes back to our own personal values and our attitudes about being business owners. Is we're not often satisfied with the status quo. So it's always about, okay, so we got to there, how can we make that better? How can we get that more efficient? How can we grow that even more? Matt and I have some pretty big goals that we have up. I can't show you them. They're right behind me here. But we've got some pretty big goals that we have up. So we've always got that end goal in mind. And every decision that we make has to then be centered around, does that move us more towards our goal or not?
AJ, it's been more than a pleasure. I know I'm better for it. My audience is better for it. Having you on the show and sharing your wisdom with us. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts, which is learning what not to do from those who maybe aren't such great leaders or have poor experiences. And also using the gifts of coaching others, right? Coaching other leaders and adding value to help people grow their business. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
The best place is probably with our marketing company, which is called Supercharged Offers. So they can go to superchargedoffers.com. They can email me direct, which is Alicia, Alicia, at superchargedoffers.com. Or if they want to book some time with me to talk about their businesses, particularly if they've got a real estate business that they want to unpack and look at their growth strategies around that, they can give my team a call on 888-538-5478, and we can jump on a call and book some time free of charge.
Amazing. Thanks, AJ. And I also want to thank our listeners for listening to an episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streamed on Expert CRE Secrets Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is an amazing way for you to exit, and or becoming an expert commercial real estate broker using strategies such as leveling up your leadership and leveling up the way that you build teams is the probably the number one way to grow your business, so you can exit and maybe have a capital gains tax event, which we can help you out with. If you're interested in learning more about what we do and how we can help you, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Also look for the new book that's going to be dropping here soon, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. We have some really smart people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He'll be in the book, and a number of other commercial real estate syndicators and operators and a bunch of other smart people. So if you want to check that out, love for you to support. Please rate, review, subscribe to the channel, to YouTube channel, to iTunes. Share this with somebody who could be inspired today. AJ brought the wisdom and so much more. So we appreciate all of that support.